For years, royal watchers believed Prince Harry and Meghan's children would always dominate headlines as the monarchy's next generation. But behind palace walls, a quiet shift has reportedly changed everything. In a move that stunned royal insiders, James, the son of Prince Edward and Sophie, has suddenly stepped into a far more powerful spotlight, sparking whispers that Archie and Lilibet's royal relevance may already be fading. Was this simply tradition unfolding, or a calculated royal repositioning years in the making? And why are some now calling James the monarchy's unexpected future? And do you think James's promotion is timely? Will Archie and Lilibet still reclaim their royal titles? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. To help us create more videos and uncover the latest royal drama, please subscribe. The silent heir. For many years, people across the world believed the future of the British royal family would be shaped by controversy, emotional interviews, and endless public conflict. Every major discussion about the monarchy seemed to focus on family arguments, shocking revelations, broken relationships, and dramatic exits from royal life. News channels analyzed every appearance. Newspapers examined every facial expression. Social media exploded over every rumor, every speech, and every disagreement connected to the palace. To many people, it felt as though the monarchy had become less about tradition and service, and more about public drama. But while the world remained distracted by headlines and scandals, something much deeper and more important was quietly taking shape behind palace doors. A completely different royal future was slowly emerging. Not through loud speeches, not through media attention, not through emotional public battles or carefully crafted celebrity images. Instead, this new era was being built through patience, discipline, quiet confidence, and a deep sense of duty. At the center of this quiet transformation stands James Alexander Philip Theo Mountbatten Windsor, better known as the Earl of Wessex. Unlike many young public figures today, James has never appeared eager to attract attention. He does not constantly seek the spotlight. He rarely gives public statements. He avoids turning his personal life into entertainment for the public. In a world where fame is often built through noise and constant exposure, James has taken the complete opposite path. And strangely, that silence has made people even more curious about him. Inside royal circles, including places like Buckingham Palace and Kensington Palace, many now reportedly view James as the symbol of a more disciplined and traditional monarchy. A monarchy that values responsibility over popularity, service over self-promotion, stability over attention-seeking. Over the past decade, the royal institution appears to have learned painful lessons. Palace officials now understand that too much exposure can sometimes weaken the dignity of the crown instead of strengthening it. When royals begin behaving more like celebrities than national symbols, the mystery and respect surrounding the monarchy can slowly disappear. James seems to represent the complete opposite of that modern trend. He represents calmness, discipline, and quiet strength. This became especially noticeable during recent royal ceremonies. Many expected cameras and public attention to focus entirely on King Charles III and Prince William. Yet viewers across the world unexpectedly found themselves watching the quiet young royal standing near Prince Edward. James did not try to steal attention. Text wrapping break. He did not perform for the cameras. Text wrapping break. He did not wave dramatically or seek applause. He simply stood with remarkable composure and confidence. Quiet. Text wrapping break. Still. Text wrapping break. Focused. And somehow, that silence spoke louder than words. Royal observers soon began describing him as the silent strength of the monarchy, while others called him the royal who understands the power of restraint. Because in today's world, where almost everyone is fighting desperately to be noticed, James appears powerful for one very unusual reason. He does not need attention to command it. But who is James? What has he been known for? Let's delve into the details of the boy who was raised to live naturally. The grounded prince. One of the most fascinating things about James Alexander is not simply the royal family he was born into, but the very different way he was raised. In a world where royal children are often surrounded by luxury, constant attention, and endless public fascination. James grew up in a far more normal and balanced environment than many people would expect. His parents, Prince Edward and Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, made a bold and unusual choice very early in his life. Instead of allowing royal titles and privilege to define their children, they wanted James and his sister to experience life as normally as possible. That decision would later shape not only James's personality, but also the way the public now views him. Although James is the grandson of the late Queen Elizabeth II and a member of one of the most recognized royal families in the world, his parents reportedly worked hard to keep him away from excessive royal pressure. They did not want him growing up believing that being royal automatically made him more important than other people. Instead, they focused on teaching him values that many believe are becoming increasingly rare within royal circles: humility, respect, patience, discipline, and responsibility. This approach made a major difference in his development. Rather than being raised in an environment built entirely around privilege, James was exposed to more ordinary experiences and everyday social interactions. He reportedly learned how to speak naturally with people from different backgrounds, handle situations without expecting special treatment, and carry himself with quiet confidence instead of entitlement. That may sound simple to ordinary people, but within royal history, it is actually quite remarkable. Many royal children grow up protected behind layers of tradition, ceremony, security, and formality. Their lives are often carefully controlled from a very young age, leaving little room for normal experiences. James, however, appears to have been given the opportunity to develop a deeper understanding of real life beyond palace walls. What makes him especially interesting is the balance he seems to carry. On one hand, he understands royal duty, tradition, and responsibility because he was born into that world. On the other hand, he also seems able to relate to ordinary people in a way that feels natural and genuine. That rare combination has made many royal watchers see him as both dignified and refreshingly relatable. Some observers even believe this upbringing benefited him emotionally and psychologically. Because his identity was not built entirely around royal titles or public status, James appears to have developed a stronger sense of who he truly is as a person. He does not seem dependent on constant praise, attention, or public validation to feel secure. Perhaps that is why he often appears calm, steady, and composed, even while growing up under the shadow of one of the world's most famous institutions. In many ways, James Alexander represents something modern royal families rarely achieve: a blend of royal dignity and ordinary humanity. Does James have any lookalikes in the recent monarchy? What do they have in common? Let's dig into the details of lessons from Prince Philip, the Quiet Prince. To truly understand who James Alexander is becoming, many royal watchers believe you first have to understand the man who quietly shaped him the most: Prince Philip. Among all of Queen Elizabeth II's grandchildren, James is often seen as the one who reflects Prince Philip's character more than anyone else. Not necessarily in the way he speaks or behaves in public, but in the deeper qualities that defined Philip throughout his life. The discipline, text-wrapping break; the inner toughness, text-wrapping break; the sharp, practical thinking, text-wrapping break; and the rare ability to stay calm even under pressure. People close to the royal family have long believed that the bond between James and Prince Philip became strongest during their time together at Balmoral Castle in Scotland. Far away from royal cameras, public appearances, and the endless attention surrounding the monarchy, James reportedly spent valuable time learning directly from his grandfather. One activity in particular seemed to leave a lasting mark on him: fly fishing. To many people, fishing may sound like nothing more than a quiet hobby, but within royal and aristocratic circles, fly fishing is often treated almost like a life lesson. It teaches patience in its purest form. It demands complete focus, silence, and emotional control. A person can stand for hours in icy water without catching anything, carefully watching the movement of the river, studying the wind, reading tiny changes in nature, and waiting for the exact right moment to act. One wrong move can ruin everything. Prince Philip reportedly loved that discipline because it reflected the way he viewed life itself: calm, controlled, observant, and never ruled by emotion. And many believe James absorbed those lessons deeply during those quiet Scottish days. Those private moments away from the spotlight may explain why James now appears so different from many young public figures today. In an age where celebrities constantly fight for attention, share every emotion online, and react instantly to criticism, James seems to move in the opposite direction. He appears comfortable with silence. He does not seem desperate to be seen every moment. He rarely creates drama. He rarely overreacts publicly. Instead, he gives the impression of someone who understands the value of restraint, someone who knows that not every thought needs to be spoken, and not every feeling needs to be displayed. That mindset has slowly become one of the most talked about parts of his public image. During major royal ceremonies, many observers notice how remarkably calm he remains. He rarely looks distracted. He rarely fidgets or appears uncomfortable under pressure. For someone still so young, he carries himself with unusual steadiness and focus. And for many royal followers, that composure is impossible to ignore because it feels so familiar. It reminds them of Prince Philip. More than anything else, James seems to understand a lesson his grandfather mastered long ago. Real strength does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes, the strongest people in the room are the quietest ones. So, when did everything change for James? How did it happen? Let's dive into the details of the vigil that changed everything. The vigil transformation. Although James had appeared at royal events before, most people barely noticed him. He was often seen quietly standing beside other members of the royal family, far away from the spotlight that usually followed the senior royals. To many, he simply seemed like another young royal growing up behind palace walls, protected from the intense pressure of public life. But everything changed after the death of Queen Elizabeth II. In one unforgettable moment, the world suddenly saw James in a completely different light. At just 14 years old, James took part in one of the most emotional and historic events the modern monarchy had witnessed in decades. Inside Westminster Hall, during the solemn vigil beside the late Queen's coffin, millions of eyes turned toward the young royal. The atmosphere was heavy with grief. Around the world, people watched in silence as members of the royal family stood guard to honor the woman who had ruled Britain for 70 years. The pressure on James was enormous. Global television cameras followed every movement. Every facial expression could be analyzed. Every small mistake could instantly become international headlines. For most teenagers, such attention would feel unbearable. Yet James appeared remarkably calm from beginning to end. He stood perfectly still throughout the vigil. His posture remained steady. His face showed quiet focus and deep respect. Even in such an emotional moment, he never appeared distracted or uncomfortable. There was no sign of nervousness, despite the intense public attention surrounding him. What struck many viewers most was how natural it all seemed. Nothing about James felt forced or rehearsed. He did not look like someone trying to impress the cameras or perform for public approval. Instead, he appeared genuine, a young man carrying himself with dignity during a heartbreaking moment for his family and his country. That sincerity deeply touched many people watching around the world. For countless viewers, it became the first time they truly noticed him. Suddenly, James was no longer seen as a quiet royal child hidden in the background. People began to sense something different about him. There was a level of discipline rarely seen in someone so young. There was emotional control far beyond his years. While many teenagers are still trying to understand themselves and deal with ordinary pressures of growing up, James seemed able to handle extraordinary responsibility with surprising maturity. Reports from royal insiders suggested that the moment did not go unnoticed within palace circles either. The monarchy depends heavily on individuals who can remain calm during moments of national grief, intense public scrutiny, and historic importance. In many ways, James had quietly demonstrated that ability without saying a single word. That single vigil changed everything about how the public viewed him. From that point onward, people began paying far closer attention whenever James appeared at royal events. Every appearance sparked more curiosity. The more people watched him, the more fascinated they became. What had once seemed like a quiet young royal in the shadows was now beginning to look like someone who could one day become one of the monarchy's strongest and most dependable figures. Will James be out there filling any void? How would he get along with William? Let's take a look at the reason why Prince William sees James as essential. The new ally. For many years, it was widely assumed that Prince William and Prince Harry would grow into a strong partnership at the heart of the British monarchy. People imagined them standing side by side, sharing duties, supporting each other, and carrying the weight of the crown together. As brothers close in age and raised under intense public attention, they were seen as the perfect team for the future of the royal family. However, life took a very different direction. Over time, their relationship became strained, and eventually the distance between them grew very public. What was once a symbol of unity turned into one of separation. This change not only affected them personally and emotionally, it also created a challenge for the monarchy itself. The royal system depends heavily on trust, loyalty, and teamwork. Future kings cannot operate alone. They need people around them who understand the institution deeply and are willing to quietly carry responsibility without seeking attention or praise. Because of this gap, attention has slowly shifted toward new figures within the royal circle. One name that has increasingly come up among royal watchers is James Alexander. While not as publicly visible as senior royals, he is beginning to be seen as someone who could play an important supporting role in the future structure of the monarchy. What makes James stand out is not dramatic behavior or public fame, but rather his calm and steady nature. In situations where others might react emotionally or rush into decisions, he appears composed and thoughtful. Where some may act quickly and impulsively, he seems more careful and strategic. This kind of personality is especially valuable in an institution that relies heavily on stability and careful planning. There is also a growing sense that James is not interested in personal fame or public competition. Instead, he appears focused on being useful, dependable, and supportive. That attitude carries weight in royal circles, where quiet reliability is often more valuable than visibility. Many observers believe that Prince William may view him in a similar light, not as a replacement for anyone, but as a trusted ally who can help maintain balance and order behind the scenes. Someone who understands the importance of protecting the institution rather than drawing attention away from it. This shift also reflects a broader change within the monarchy itself. In recent years, there seems to be less emphasis on building celebrity figures and more focus on shaping effective working members of the royal family. Individuals who can contribute meaningfully without turning every action into a public spectacle are becoming more important. In this evolving environment, James fits a very specific need. He is seen as someone who does not chase headlines, but instead focuses on responsibility. He does not appear driven by personal branding, but by service. And he does not seek attention, but rather stability. Because of these qualities, some believe he may gradually become one of the quiet but influential figures supporting the future reign of Prince William, helping to strengthen the monarchy from behind the scenes, where long-term stability is often built. What is that unique strength that James has? Could there be something great about him behind that quietness? Let's talk about the rise of the modern royal intellectual. Modern royal intellect. One of the key reasons James is increasingly earning quiet respect within royal circles is his strong and growing interest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. At first glance, this may seem unusual when talking about royalty. People often imagine royal life as being centered on tradition, ceremonies, public appearances, and formal duties. But the modern world has changed a lot, and the monarchy now faces challenges that are far more complex than in the past. Modern challenges like AI, climate change, cybersecurity, and global instability demand practical understanding beyond tradition. James is portrayed as a thinker who looks beyond appearances, focusing on how systems work and how they can be improved, reflecting a more analytical and problem-solving approach compared to older royal expectations. This kind of thinking is rare in traditional royal settings, and it is part of why he stands out. He does not seem content with surface-level knowledge. Instead, he shows curiosity about structures, systems, and long-term sustainability. This mindset makes him especially valuable to senior members of the royal family, including King Charles III and Prince William, who are themselves trying to modernize the monarchy and make it more relevant in a fast-changing world. Because of his interest in science and structured thinking, some royal observers have begun to describe James as representing a new type of royal figure, what they call a royal intellectual. This does not mean someone distant or academic in a cold sense. Rather, it refers to someone who combines duty with deep thinking and tradition with a practical understanding of modern realities. His interest in environmental issues also reflects this approach. For him, protecting the environment is not just about emotional concern or public campaigns. It is about understanding ecosystems, studying causes and effects, and thinking carefully about the long-term balance between humans and nature. Even in areas like military affairs, his interest reportedly goes beyond uniforms and ceremonial roles. He is said to be curious about strategy, leadership structures, coordination systems, and how large organizations maintain discipline and effectiveness. This blend of traditional royal responsibility and technical curiosity makes him stand out in a quiet but powerful way. He manages to appear traditional without being outdated, modern without being careless, and intelligent without seeming arrogant or disconnected. Most importantly, he seems to understand a key truth about the future of monarchy. Respect today is not automatic. It must be earned through competence, relevance, and steady contribution. In a world where institutions are constantly questioned, the monarchy cannot rely only on history or symbolism. It must show that it can still add value, solve problems, and adapt to change. James, in his own developing way, appears very aware of this reality, and that awareness may shape his growing role in the years ahead. But how has James been able to prove himself so far? Does he seem to be a loyal ally? Let's delve into the details of the silent guardian of the crown's future. Silent royal strength. As 2026 continues, one thing becomes increasingly clear. James Alexander is no longer viewed merely as a quiet young royal existing at the edges of public attention. He is becoming something much larger. Inside royal circles, he is increasingly seen as a stabilizing force for the monarchy's future. Many now describe him as the silent guardian of the House of Windsor. That description captures something important about his appeal. James does not appear motivated by fame. Text wrapping break. He does not appear driven by personal glory. Text wrapping break. He does not behave like someone desperate to become the center of attention. Instead, he appears devoted to protecting something larger than himself. That devotion has deeply impressed many people. In an era dominated by oversharing, personal branding, and endless online visibility, James represents restraint. He has preserved mystery, preserved dignity, and preserved discipline. And because of that, every appearance he makes carries enormous symbolic weight. People are fascinated by him precisely because so little about him feels performative. He appears sincere. Text wrapping break. Grounded. Text wrapping break. Focused. Many believe this quiet strength may ultimately become essential to the monarchy's survival. The British royal family has endured for centuries not because it constantly transformed itself into celebrity culture, but because it carefully balanced adaptation with continuity. James seems perfectly built for that balancing act. He carries echoes of Queen Elizabeth II's devotion to duty. Text wrapping break. He reflects Prince Philip's practical discipline. Text wrapping break. Yet he also belongs fully to the modern world shaped by technology, systems, and global communication. That combination makes him uniquely important. Perhaps most remarkably, James has managed to make quiet service appear admirable again. He has shown that leadership does not always require dominating every conversation. Sometimes leadership means standing firmly behind the institution, Strength means remaining calm, while others lose control, and sometimes influence comes not from speaking constantly, but from speaking carefully. That philosophy may define the monarchy's next chapter. Because as the House of Windsor moves into an uncertain future, many people are beginning to believe the crown's greatest protection may not come from the person sitting on the throne alone. It may also come from the young man standing quietly beside it, watching carefully. Text wrapping break. Thinking deeply. Text wrapping break. Preparing silently. James Alexander has become the symbol of a different kind of royal power. Not power built on fame, text wrapping break, but power built on trust. Not power fueled by publicity, text wrapping break, but power strengthened by discipline. And not power obsessed with being seen, text wrapping break, but power devoted entirely to service. So, does this have any implications on Archie and Lilibet? Is there any hope of getting a royal role in the future? Let's journey into the details of the ongoing battles over Archie and Lilibet's royal titles. Royal title dispute. Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, and Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, have reportedly found themselves in ongoing tension over something that may sound simple on the surface, but carries deep meaning for their family: the royal titles and future identities of their children, Prince Archie of Sussex and Princess Lilibet of Sussex. According to various reports, Harry and Meghan strongly believe that their children should keep their HRH status and royal titles as part of their identity. In their view, Archie and Lilibet should not have their future decided for them right now. Instead, the couple reportedly feels that when the children grow older, they should be the ones to choose whether or not they want to take on official royal duties or roles within the monarchy. However, this position is said to have created quiet disagreement within royal circles. Some sources close to the monarchy suggest that there is doubt about whether Archie and Lilibet would ever be welcomed into active royal duties in the future, especially under the expected reign of Prince William, Prince of Wales. These insiders reportedly believe that the monarchy is gradually moving toward a smaller and more focused structure, where only a limited number of working royals carry out official public roles. The situation reportedly became more complicated when claims emerged that Harry and Meghan faced unexpected delays while applying for British passports for their children. These delays were said to be linked to the use of updated royal names and titles in the documents. Some sources even suggested that there was uncertainty around whether the HRH style and royal designations should appear on official paperwork for children living outside the United Kingdom. At one point, it was also reported that the couple considered using the Spencer surname, Princess Diana's family name, as an alternative in order to avoid further administrative or political complications. This claim added even more public interest to an already sensitive matter. Eventually, the passports were issued, and after King Charles III became monarch, Archie and Lilibet began to formally use their prince and princess titles. However, this did not bring the debate to an end. Instead, the question of their royal future continues to attract attention. What may have started as a matter of documents and titles has now grown into a larger and ongoing discussion about identity, tradition, family decisions, and the changing shape of the modern royal institution. So, what do you think about how James officially became a prince? Do you think Archie and Lilibet will get such recognition one day? We'd love to hear your opinions in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe.